Oklahoma Onion Burger. This burger came out of Great Depression-era Oklahoma, when butchers stretched a small amount of beef by smashing a thin patty directly into a bed of shaved onions on the griddle. The onions cook right into the meat, releasing moisture that keeps the thin patty from drying out while adding a caramelized sweetness you do not get from onions added after the fact. It stayed a regional secret for decades, mostly known through a handful of diners in Oklahoma and Kansas, rather than any national chain. What makes it worth knowing is that the technique quietly influenced the modern smash burger trend, even though most people who order a smash burger today have never heard the name behind it. Patty melt. The patty melt sits somewhere between a burger and a grilled cheese sandwich, built with a beef patty, melted cheese, and grilled onions pressed between two slices of rye bread instead of a bun. It became a diner staple in the mid-20th century, often listed quietly on menus next to burgers without drawing much attention. Cooking it in a skillet with butter gives the bread a crisp, toasted edge that a standard bun never develops, and the rye adds a slight tang that pairs well with the sweetness of the onions. It has stayed a favorite among diner regulars for generations, even as it rarely gets mentioned in wider conversations about burger culture. Butter burger. Butter burgers come from Wisconsin, a state closely tied to dairy farming, and the name refers to a pat of butter placed either on the bun or directly on the patty before serving. The butter melts into the bread and meat, adding a smooth richness that changes the texture of every bite without overwhelming the beef itself. Small Wisconsin drive-ins have served this style for decades, largely unnoticed outside the region, until a few chains began carrying the concept further afield. Its appeal lies in how a single simple addition can shift a familiar format into something noticeably softer and richer. Ramen Burger. Invented in Brooklyn in the early 2010s, the Ramen Burger replaces the traditional bun with two discs of pan-fried ramen noodles pressed and cooked until they hold their shape. The idea spread quickly online after debuting at a food festival, though it never fully broke into mainstream burger menus the way other novelty items have. Biting into it gives a chewy, slightly crisp texture from the noodles that contrasts sharply with the softness of a standard bun. It remains a favorite among food enthusiasts who enjoy unexpected combinations, even if casual diners rarely come across it. Loco Moco. Loco Moco developed in Hawaii after World War II, when local cooks combined a hamburger patty with steamed rice, brown gravy, and a fried egg on top, creating a dish that reads more like a hearty plate meal than a handheld sandwich. It grew out of a need for cheap, filling food that could be made quickly with ingredients already on hand at diners serving plantation workers. The gravy soaks into the rice, while the egg yolk adds richness once it is broken open, tying the whole plate together in a way a bun never could. Despite being deeply loved across the islands, it remains largely unknown outside Hawaii and a few dedicated Hawaiian restaurants on the mainland. Frita Cubana. The Frita Cubana traces back to Cuban immigrant communities in Miami, built around a beef patty seasoned with paprika and mixed with a bit of chorizo, giving it a smokier and spicier profile than a standard hamburger. It is traditionally topped with shoestring potato sticks piled directly on top, adding a crunch that plays against the softness of the meat and bun underneath. Cuban lunch counters have served this version for decades as a point of neighborhood pride, though it rarely appears on menus outside areas with strong Cuban communities. Its combination of spiced meat and potato topping makes it one of the more distinctive regional burgers in the country. Jibarito. The Jibarito began in a small Puerto Rican restaurant in Chicago during the 1990s, replacing the bun entirely with two flattened fried plantain slices instead of bread. Underneath the plantains sits a seasoned patty, along with lettuce, tomato, and garlic mayonnaise, giving the sandwich a flavor closer to Caribbean cooking than typical American burger fare. The plantains add a slightly sweet, dense bite that holds up well against the juiciness of the meat, creating a texture unlike anything found in bread-based burgers. It remains mostly known within Puerto Rican and Chicago food circles, rarely traveling far beyond those communities despite its strong following. Kofte Burger. Kofte burgers draw from Middle Eastern and Turkish kofta, spiced ground meat traditionally shaped into patties or skewers, long before the American hamburger existed in its modern form. Instead of plain beef, the meat is mixed with cumin, garlic, parsley, and other spices, giving the patty a deeper, more layered flavor than a standard burger seasoned only with salt and pepper. Restaurants blending Middle Eastern cooking with Western fast food formats have quietly introduced this version in recent years, often serving it with yogurt sauce instead of ketchup or mayonnaise. It stands out for showing how the burger format can absorb entirely different culinary traditions while still feeling familiar to eat. Bulgogi Burger. The Bulgogi Burger takes its name from Korean bulgogi, thin slices of beef marinated in a soy and sesame-based sauce that traditionally gets grilled rather than formed into a patty. Adapting it into burger form means blending the same marinade into ground beef, creating a patty with a sweet, savory depth that differs sharply from the plainer seasoning of a classic hamburger. It gained some visibility through Korean fusion restaurants and food trucks over the past decade, though it remains far less recognized than more established international burger variations. The result offers a bridge between traditional Korean barbecue flavors and the familiar structure of a bun and patty, appealing to people looking for something outside the usual burger lineup.